Once, long before humans made their mark across the galaxy, a majestic creature known simply as the dragon reigned as a symbol of peace. It was a being of vast wisdom and strength, possessing knowledge so deep it could unravel the mysteries of star systems, and powers so grand that it could hold entire fleets at bay with a single breath. For eons, this ancient dragon had been the galaxy's guardian, a noble emissary who brokered treaties between rival factions, settling disputes with words rather than claws. The Council, a powerful assembly of alien species governing the galaxy's affairs, once held it in the highest regard, a trusted mediator whose wisdom guided the fate of countless worlds. Its loyalty to the cause of peace was unmatched, and it had served willingly, faithfully, believing that such a mission justified its solitude. But everything changed with the Great War. A deadly conflict loomed between two of the Council's largest and most powerful factions, both vying for control over a highly strategic star system. As tensions rose, the dragon was called upon to mediate. It arrived, hoping to bridge the divide, speaking words of harmony, urging the factions to consider peace. It reminded them that conquest would only bring suffering and that there was no victory in dominance if it meant the devastation of their worlds. For a while, it seemed they might heed its wisdom. Yet, unknown to the dragon, darker forces were at play. A clandestine group within the Council, craving war to consolidate their influence, spread rumors, manipulating each side's fear and pride, seeding distrust. The peace negotiations fractured under their cunning, and war erupted in full force. As blood spilled across stars and worlds burned, the Council turned on the dragon. Those in power pointed accusing fingers, claiming that the dragon's influence had failed and that its age-old council had stirred confusion rather than calm. They whispered that perhaps the dragon had even stoked the flames of war deliberately, seeking to keep its own authority intact. These baseless accusations spread like wildfire, erasing memories of the dragon's benevolence and honor. To the Council, a scapegoat was more convenient than accountability, and the dragon, once so revered, became the perfect target. The Council declared the dragon responsible for the war, accusing it of misguidance, and cast judgment quickly. The dragon's heart grew heavy with despair. To have its entire existence, centuries of loyalty and service, condemned for a crime it did not commit was a burden it could scarcely bear. It was given no chance to defend itself. No one listened to its pleas. Council members, driven by ambition and fear, silenced it with cold indifference. Its words fell into silence. To them, the dragon was no longer a revered protector, but a dangerous relic, a memory they wished to erase. And so, it was decided that the dragon would be banished to an isolated moon on the edge of the galaxy, far from any civilization, where it could waste away in solitude. Exile was their punishment, a quiet end in the darkness. When they brought the dragon to its prison, the stars were hidden, as if the heavens themselves had turned away in sorrow. The barren moon was cold, lifeless, orbiting a distant, dying sun. The Council wasted no time and left without ceremony, abandoning the dragon to a forsaken, silent realm. Alone now, the dragon lay bound to the desolate surface. Its magnificent wings, once a shimmering sight across galaxies, folded close. Its strength drained with each passing century, weighed down by the suffocating loneliness. The silence of the moon was absolute, save for the faint hum of distant stars, a sound that seemed to mock its isolation. The dragon's thoughts spiraled in the darkness, haunted by memories of its past, a time when its voice could command respect, its presence seen as a blessing to all. Now, in this empty prison, it was nothing but a faded shadow, an abandoned creature that no one remembered. The weight of betrayal gnawed at it as days, years, and decades passed. It often questioned its own existence, why it had chosen a path of loyalty, only to be forsaken by the very beings it had vowed to protect. In its loneliness, it began to wonder if it had been wrong to believe in peace. It felt the bitterness creeping into its heart, tainting the ideals it had once cherished. What was the point of wisdom, of serving others, if this was to be its end? It had sacrificed everything, even its pride, for the well-being of others, and now there was no one to remember that sacrifice. It seemed that its legacy, once woven into the galaxy's very fabric, was to fade into nothingness on this barren rock, lost to time. But even as hope dwindled, a part of the dragon refused to let go entirely. Despite the depths of its sorrow, a small ember of resilience persisted within, the faintest flicker of hope that maybe, somehow, its story wasn't truly over. The galaxy was vast, and perhaps, in some distant future, someone would remember it, someone who might seek it out and understand the truth. That sliver of hope kept it going, however faint and fragile. So the dragon waited, enduring, watching the distant stars shift and pass, clinging to the remnants of its honor and the memory of what it once stood for. Centuries passed as the dragon lay forgotten on its desolate moon, drifting between memories and silence, when one day, faint vibrations stirred the dust around it. At first, the dragon dismissed them, assuming it was simply the shifting of ancient rock. But the vibrations grew into sounds, rhythmic and unfamiliar, and soon, light, different from the faint stars, pierced the sky. Through tired eyes, the dragon watched as a strange ship, small and crude compared to the vessels it had once known, descended onto the barren surface. The visitors were humans, explorers from a newly formed coalition of planets, who had come across rumors of a prisoned entity while charting the forgotten sectors. To them, the dragon was nothing more than a distant myth, a story passed down by older species who rarely interacted with humankind. Yet their curiosity was piqued when they detected an anomaly, a peculiar energy signature that didn't match the moon's barren nature. This curiosity brought them here, to the dragon's prison, on a mission of mere exploration and discovery. When they finally saw the dragon, awe and fear gripped them. It was massive, lying still against the rocky surface, and though weakened, its scales glinted faintly under the dim sunlight, evoking both wonder and reverence. The dragon, sensing their trepidation, remained silent, merely observing. Despite its weakened state, the dragon's pride remained intact, and it watched them with an air of caution, uncertain if they, too, would turn against it. However, unlike the council, these humans approached with reverence rather than authority. They spoke in hushed tones, admiring the dragon's form and remarking on the beauty they could see, even in its current state. The humans returned often, each time with new faces and supplies, piecing together the story of the dragon through fragments they found in forgotten archives and tales from other species. Slowly, they came to realize the tragedy that had befallen the dragon, the way it was cast out, left to bear the weight of blame for a conflict it had tried to prevent. This realization stirred something within the humans. They knew betrayal, the cost of war, and the harsh judgments of power. Perhaps they couldn't fully grasp the dragon's ancient pain, but they understood enough to empathize. One human in particular, a young officer named Elias, took a special interest in the dragon. Elias was driven by a deep sense of justice, someone who had seen the effects of betrayal firsthand within his own ranks. He often sat near the dragon, speaking of Earth's history, its wars, and the ways his own kind had learned, often painfully, that sometimes those with the best intentions were the ones punished. The dragon, though initially indifferent to these stories, found itself drawn to this human's words, sensing in him an honesty and warmth that had been lacking in its interactions with others. Over time, it began to speak, its voice low and wary, sharing brief fragments of its past, tales of stars it once guarded, and wars it had fought to prevent. With each visit, Elias and the others learned more about the dragon's plight. They discovered the depth of the betrayal, how the council had manipulated events to cast the dragon as a scapegoat. Shocked and angered by the injustice, Elias pledged that he and his crew would do everything in their power to set things right. They promised to be the voices the dragon never had, to tell its story, and to reveal the truth of what had happened. The dragon, surprised yet touched by their pledge, was hesitant to believe them fully. After all, promises of loyalty were what led it to this prison in the first place. Yet the humans returned again and again, bringing small offerings, nutrients, tools to help clear the dust from its scales, and tales of new worlds they had encountered. They spoke of other species and even asked the dragon for guidance, as if seeking to honor its once great role as a peacemaker. Slowly, the dragon's defenses began to waver, its cynicism softening as it witnessed their commitment. It allowed itself to hope, to believe that perhaps, for the first time in centuries, it was not truly alone. One day, as the humans worked to clear debris from around the dragon, they noticed carvings that the dragon itself had etched into the rock during its solitude. Elias studied these markings carefully, realizing they weren't mere symbols but fragments of ancient knowledge, messages left behind not as a plea for help, but as a record, as if the dragon had wished to leave something behind, knowing it might fade into obscurity. When Elias asked about these markings, the dragon's gaze softened, and it spoke of ancient wisdom it had once shared freely, hoping to guide others toward peace. It told them of forgotten principles, of star systems and alliances lost to time. Deeply moved, Elias and the crew decided to preserve the dragon's knowledge. They documented every symbol, recorded every story, vowing that these wouldn't be lost to history. In doing so, they became more than just visitors. They became protectors of its legacy. With each passing visit, the humans' dedication warmed the dragon's spirit. Their loyalty rekindled the last remnants of its strength, filling it with a sense of purpose it had thought lost. It began sharing secrets long buried, knowledge of diplomacy, tactics, and even warnings of cosmic dangers that lay hidden among the stars. As this bond of trust grew, the dragon finally began to believe that these humans would not abandon it as others had. In a solemn moment, it vowed to serve them in return, to lend its strength and wisdom to their cause if they ever found themselves in need. It was a silent pact, born not from duty, but from a profound mutual respect and understanding. The humans had done something the dragon had thought impossible. They had broken through its walls of sorrow and anger, reminding it that loyalty and honor still held meaning, even in a galaxy that had cast it aside. Through these quiet exchanges, the humans and the dragon forged a bond that transcended mere companionship. They were allies connected by the understanding of hardship and a shared sense of justice. And as they departed that day, promising to return with allies and a plan to confront the council, the dragon watched them go, its heart no longer heavy with bitterness, but lifted by the hope that perhaps, at last, its story would have a different ending. As the humans returned to the desolate moon, their commitment to the dragon became undeniable. They brought stories of growing unrest, whispers among other species who had also suffered under the council's grip. More and more, the humans saw the dragon not as a relic but as a symbol, a living testament to resilience in the face of injustice. These encounters left an impact on the dragon, stirring a sense of loyalty it hadn't felt since its exile. With every visit, the bond between them grew, strengthened by shared convictions and a silent promise that the dragon's story would not be erased. Through these visits, the humans learned the true scope of the council's actions, piecing together centuries of deceit and manipulation. The dragon shared its knowledge of the council's structure, the allies it had betrayed, the territories it had ravaged in the name of control. It spoke of entire civilizations that had been forced into submission, their culture and freedom stripped away under the guise of galactic order. These revelations shocked the humans, fueling their determination to do what other species had failed to do, to challenge the council's authority and make things right. They knew that standing up against such power was no small feat, but they also knew that the dragon's wisdom could guide them through the battles ahead. In one of these conversations, Elias, now a steadfast leader of the human crew, made a vow. He promised the dragon that, as long as they were able, they would continue their quest for justice, even if it meant becoming outcasts themselves. This promise struck a chord within the dragon, awakening something it had thought long buried. It hadn't seen loyalty like this since its early days as the galaxy's guardian. The humans' willingness to risk everything for a creature they barely knew was both humbling and inspiring. In a rare moment of vulnerability, the dragon opened its heart to them. It spoke of the pain of betrayal, the countless nights it had spent questioning its own purpose, wondering if its sacrifice had been in vain. For centuries, it had been forced to accept that the Council's betrayal was the final chapter of its story. But now, with the humans by its side, that despair began to dissolve. Here were beings who saw value in its existence, who were willing to shoulder the burden of its past and bring forth the truth it had so desperately held onto. Moved by the humans' dedication, the dragon made a promise in return. It would not only aid them with knowledge but would stand by them in the fight ahead, using the last of its strength to defend those who had shown it the meaning of loyalty. It was a promise forged in quiet understanding, without grand gestures or declarations, a simple yet profound pact that transcended words. This was no longer about reclaiming its honor. It was about upholding the values it had once cherished, the ideals of peace and justice that the Council had forsaken. As days turned into weeks, the dragon began to teach them. It shared ancient battle strategies, insights into the Council's weaknesses, and the secrets it had once used to maintain balance in the galaxy. The humans listened intently, absorbing every piece of knowledge, preparing themselves for the coming conflict. This alliance, born from a shared sense of purpose, transformed them from mere allies into a united front, each member driven by the belief that together they could make a difference. The dragon, in turn, felt a newfound vigor. The despair that had clung to it for centuries was replaced by a fierce determination. It no longer saw itself as a victim of the Council's schemes but as a force of resistance, a symbol of defiance against oppression. The human's loyalty had reignited the fire within, reminding it of the strength that lay dormant all these years. For the first time in a long while, it felt whole, not as a relic of a forgotten past, but as a living, breathing being with a purpose once more. One evening, as the humans gathered around the dragon, Elias spoke, his voice steady and filled with conviction. "We're not just here to right a wrong," he said. "We're here to show the Council, and the entire galaxy, that loyalty and honor still matter. That those who seek justice will always find allies, no matter how powerful the opposition may seem." His words resonated deeply, echoing sentiments the dragon had once held dear. It realized that its fate was no longer a solitary struggle but a shared journey, one where its story and legacy would live on through the actions of those who believed in it. In this unity, the dragon and the humans found strength. They were no longer bound by titles or past affiliations, but by a common purpose that transcended species and history. Their alliance became a beacon for others, a symbol of hope that inspired oppressed species across the galaxy. And as they prepared for the coming storm, they knew that, whatever the outcome, they would stand together, bound by a loyalty that could never be broken. With each passing day, the dragon felt its strength return. It was as though the loyalty of the humans had breathed new life into it, restoring not only its power but its sense of self. The bitterness that had once clouded its heart was replaced with a quiet resolve, a belief that perhaps, after all this time, its story was far from over. The humans had done what no council decree or prison could ever achieve. They had given it hope, a chance to reclaim its legacy, not through violence or revenge, but through loyalty, honor, and the unwavering courage to stand against tyranny. As they looked out over the vast emptiness of the galaxy, the dragon and the humans knew they were ready. The Council, with all its power and deception, had failed to account for one thing: the strength of loyalty forged through hardship. This bond, this unbreakable connection, would be their greatest weapon, a force that no council or empire could ever extinguish. And as they set their sights on the path ahead, they knew that, together, they would make history, not as conquerors, but as the defenders of a legacy that would inspire generations to come. The humans returned with a resolve that even the dragon could feel resonating in the air. Armed with ancient knowledge and the dragon's wisdom, they had gathered allies from oppressed species, each eager to see justice served. These alliances, built on a shared sense of betrayal and hope, formed a coalition unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Beings once enemies, now united under a single purpose. Their combined force, though small, held the strength of beings pushed to the edge, finally ready to reclaim what had been denied for so long. They were no longer scattered voices but a unified cry for change, with the dragon standing at the heart of it all. The Council, ever confident in its power, remained blind to the mounting resistance. But the coalition's growing presence caught their attention, prompting them to dismiss it as a minor rebellion, unworthy of their concern. Underestimating their opposition would be their first mistake. When the humans and their allies confronted them, it was not with grand battleships or vast fleets but with the simple, undeniable force of truth. The dragon's appearance alone sent shockwaves through the Council's ranks. They had cast it away, expecting it to be forgotten. Its return defied everything they had tried to bury. Standing before the Council, the humans presented the dragon's story, exposing the lies and manipulation that had led to its exile. They recounted the Council's betrayal, the war it had incited, and the dragon's undeserved punishment. Every detail had been meticulously gathered and preserved, piecing together a history the Council had tried to erase. As the truth unfolded, the Council members squirmed, their confidence cracking under the weight of centuries of hidden deceit. The dragon's presence was a testament to resilience, proof that even their might could not extinguish the power of loyalty and honor. But mere words would not be enough to bring the Council to justice. The Council, cornered and desperate, unleashed its fleet, determined to silence the dragon and its allies before the truth could spread further. They underestimated the resolve of beings who had been denied freedom for so long. The dragon, now fully restored, took to the skies, its ancient power igniting as it defended the coalition. In the face of this once mighty council, it stood not as an avenger but as a protector, using its strength not for revenge but for a cause greater than itself. The battle that followed was fierce, yet every attack from the council only strengthened the coalition's determination. The humans fought with a unity and bravery that inspired those around them, their defiance unyielding even in the face of overwhelming odds. The dragon, too, fought with a calm, controlled fury, using its knowledge and wisdom to guide its allies, teaching them tactics that outmatched the Council's forces. In the heat of the conflict, it became clear that this was more than a fight for justice. It was a fight for the soul of the galaxy, a testament to the strength found in unity and shared purpose. As the battle reached its peak, the dragon took a stand, a final display of power that shook the Council to its core. Its presence alone caused entire fleets to retreat. They were broken by the realization that they could not defeat the strength of loyalty and truth. One by one, the Council's forces fell back, leaving the coalition victorious not through sheer might but through the undeniable force of resilience and honor. In the aftermath, the Council was left powerless, stripped of its authority by the very beings it had oppressed. The coalition, with the dragon and humans at its helm, did not seek revenge but instead chose to dismantle the Council's corrupt system, replacing it with one built on the values of unity, justice, and respect. The galaxy's inhabitants watched in awe as the dragon, once an outcast, became a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, loyalty and truth could prevail. For the dragon, this was a reclamation of its honor, a validation of the sacrifices it had made. Yet it was more than that, it was a new beginning. Surrounded by beings who had chosen to stand by it, who had proven that its legacy would live on, the dragon felt a peace it hadn't known in centuries. The humans, whose loyalty had reignited its spirit, had not only redeemed its past but had paved the way for a future where such injustices would never again be tolerated. And as they looked toward this new future, the galaxy knew that it had been forever changed, not by the power of one but by the unity of many, bound by loyalty, honor, and the courage to stand against tyranny. Together, they had forged a legacy that would endure, a testament to the strength found in the bonds that could never be broken.